Troubleshooting PathPilot motion control issues are made easier once you isolate the controller interface card, and the DB25 pin cable from the machine. Performing motion control tests requires that PathPilot be out of reset, which normally isn't possible with the DB25 cable disconnected. Resetting PathPilot for motion control tests requires that the limit switches and the optional door enclosure switch are disabled. From the PathPilot Settings tab, disable the limit switches and the enclosure door switch. Installing a jumper between pin 25 ground and pin 15 machine OK creates a simple machine simulator. This jumper remains in place throughout our testing. I have modified my jumper to capture the ground lead of the multimeter, simplifying the process of holding the DB25 connector and the multimeter leads. A metal paperclip is a handy source of jumper wire for these low voltage tests. Where the fundamental tests investigated reset and basic communication, the motion control tests will check spindle motion and table control signals. As many of us do not have an oscilloscope, we'll check for the presence of these signals using a digital voltmeter. These signals are direct current voltages, such as coolant power, spindle direction, and table direction, or square wave oscillating signals such as spindle speed or table motion. These signals may be frequency variable or pulse width variable. Click Reset from PathPilot. Note that the machine OK indicator is lit and the reset no longer flashes. Insert the red lead of your multimeter into pin 1, spindle RPM. This is a square wave signal whose frequency varies the spindle RPM. Your multimeter will detect a 2.5 to 5 volt DC signal depending on the machine model. This signal is active with forward and reverse spindle direction. If you are troubleshooting an intermittent spindle start or an RPM variation issue, wiggle the DB25 cable and watch for changes in this reading. Pin 14 is coolant pump control. A 5 volt DC signal will appear when the coolant button is clicked. Pin 16 is forward-reverse spindle direction control. This pin will go high with forward and stay near 0 volts when stop or reverse are clicked. The next series of tests check table motion control signals from the PathPilot controller. We will observe signals while pressing keys on the controller keyboard. The left-right arrow keys control the x-axis. The up-down arrow keys control the y-axis. Page up, page down control the z-axis. And period, comma control the a-axis. Pin 2 and pin 3 of the DB25 cable involve x-axis direction and motion. Insert your test probe into pin 2 axis direction. Observe a 5 volt DC signal with a X- motion, and observe no voltage at rest and with the X+ motion. Insert your test probe into pin 3 axis motion. Use the left-right arrow keys to check for a pulsed 5 volt DC signal represented by about a 1/4 volt reduction in your multimeter reading when a key is pressed. Testing the other axes is similar. Each has a dedicated pin on the DB25 connector. If your test results differ from those presented here from the machine connector end of the cable, repeat the tests from the back of the controller. The pin designations are the same. This will isolate the issue to the DB25 cable or the controller interface board.